This clip is from my show AFC North Talk that I do with Sonny, Ace, and J-Rock. Make sure you guys check this clip out where we're talking about the AFC North. Also, if you want to see the full clip, it's available at AFC North Talk on YouTube. So check it out.
I know, and they think because they almost beat the Chiefs. I mean, they're 0-2, and they think, oh, we almost beat the Chiefs, so we're a good football team. Oh, AFC North Talk. Hey, how's it going? Haven't seen you in a while. For those of you who don't know me, I am Tony Serino. I was the former Steelers representative, I guess you could say, on this channel. Left the show 2 years ago. Left all podcasting 2 years ago, by the way. Retired. I've seen the comments. I've got the Twitter messages. I've seen it all. Tony, when are you coming back? You got to bring Tony back. Tony, come back to podcasting, please. I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back. I'm having too much fun as a fan. I mean, how could you not right now with the way the Steelers are playing? I mean, yeah, it's certainly not the prettiest football I've ever seen in my life, but Mike Tomlin, baby, we're just going to churn out winning seasons. That's what we do. I did want to get on here today, though, because I've been talking to Quincy. I've been talking to the guys. And I know it's been a challenge here to find a Steeler host. And I wanted to come on here today because as I was talking to Quincy and the guys, like, they're telling me who they're bringing on. I was excited because Jared Bailey is someone who you've probably read him on Behind the Steel Curtain, and if not, you probably he has a podcast here. I think he writes for Sporting News now as well. Real up and comer in Steeler media, and really excited that he's going to be joining the show as the full-time Steeler host here. I want to say to the fan base, look, I understand that. First of all, you have to understand from Jared's perspective, and any host coming in here as the Steeler representative on AFC North Talk, it's not exactly the easiest job in the world, okay? The Steelers aren't exactly the most loved team in the AFC North. So give him some grace as he kind of works himself into the show. And obviously there's a rapport that's been built between Sonny, Quincy, and Ace that he needs to kind of work himself into as well. And so again, give him some grace, give him some time to get in there. But Jared's a really good guy, smart, talented. You're going to like him on the show. So happy to have Jared Bailey here on AFC North Talk.
3 important week for some of us. I don't want to say who. Bottom of the screen. We're nervous. We're all nervous here. You can front all you want. We're all nervous. Let's be honest here.
The anxiety is palpable from up
nervous,
here.
son.
It's like seeping from the basement of the division. The anxiety from these two teams at the bottom.
I was molded in 0-2, bro. So I mean, I think I am pretty comfortable here.
Now, Ace,
the Ravens, on the other hand,
Ace,
I don't know, bro. Last time you guys went 0-2,
Ace,
no playoffs. I don't know.
An 0-2 off right now.
Ace. Ace. Okay, that being said, let's go first game. The Brownies are going. It's in New York. I believe it's New York.
No, it's in Cleveland.
That's in Cleveland. Oh, Danny Dimes going to Cleveland. I can only imagine how excited this defense is. This is a team that is really good defensively, and I can only assume that they're like, yep. Because the Giants defensively, sometimes, they surprise you. The defense, they're just not consistent. But offensively, there's no surprise that what that offense is going to do. And it's against a good defense. I'm sure Myles Garrett is making his chops cute. What do you expect out of this game?
Yeah, I don't expect the Browns defense to have any trouble, but I do think this is going to be a good test to see exactly where we are with the quarterback position, right? Like after that Dallas game, I said it wasn't going to be one game. Oh, guys, it was just a bad start. We're not going to worry about that anymore. We're not going to think about anything that happened in Dallas. No, there were things that you saw in that Dallas game that you just need to check off and see a multiple amount of times him do before you can feel comfortable about him being the quarterback and also just like him supposed to live up to expectations. So when you talk about this week for Deshaun Watson, the one thing he didn't see last week versus Jacksonville was he didn't see a lot of multiple defensive coverages, right? They play a lot of cover one in Jacksonville, a little bit of two-man, but they don't really switch it up as much as like Dallas did where they kind of have an even split of 3, 4, and 6. So this week you're going to go up against a New York defense that fluctuates pretty frequently. I believe it's cover 3 and cover 2 that they don't do a lot of 4 and 6, or maybe it's 4 and 3, but I know it's 3's in there somewhere, right? They run a lot higher of a variance of coverages. So the question is, hey, was Deshaun Watson a lot more decisive and accurate with the football because the plan was simpler and he was seeing simpler things defensively, or was it because he's actually getting better or that game week 1 was an aberration. We'll find out more as the weeks go on, but this is a good test, right? Even though New York Giants aren't like a great defense, especially in the secondary, I do think their defensive line is strong. It matters that you do it against those concepts, right? Are you able to get downfield? And I want to see this Browns offense, and no offense to Jarrett, but like the Browns are paying a lot of money on offense, and they're winning games like Pittsburgh has to, right? Like they're running the ball, they're keeping the score down. It's Tomlin ball. Like it's basically like you can swap the Browns jersey with Steelers jersey for that game against Jacksonville, and that's exactly how the Steelers will win a game like that. It's like, oh, they get a safety at the end of the game, and that's how they win the game. It's like, yeah, it's exactly how that would happen, but to Pittsburgh's credit, they're not running out there a $45 million quarterback. They're not running out there an offense that's very expensive with a paid offensive line and 2 paid wide receivers. The Browns have to be able to at least get to 20 points reliably offensively for this whole thing to work, and you want to see that. It's not going to bite you in the ass versus Jacksonville. It might not even bite you in the ass versus New York or even the Raiders or the Commanders, but you know it's going to matter when you play the Bengals. You know it's going to matter when you play Philly, Pittsburgh, all of these teams that you do have coming up on your schedule, and you want to feel like you're in a good position to take those on. So you want to see this offense score multiple touchdowns. You want to see them put up points, multiple sustained drives. Maybe getting Jack Conklin back, that helps, but offensively is where I have my eyes on. Defensively, I don't think highly of Daniel Jones. I think I've made no mince of that on this show. I've been very critical of Daniel Jones. So I don't expect Daniel Jones to have a great day against the Browns. The one issue the Browns had were against mobile quarterbacks. I think Trevor Lawrence is a far better runner of the football than Daniel Jones is. I just think Daniel Jones only runs the football, so we tend to give him a little bit more credit with running than he kind of deserves. But he's a good runner, but I think Trevor Lawrence is a little bit harder to tackle and a little bit more thrifty of a runner than him. And you were able to contain that last week against Jacksonville at home, on the road. So I expect them to do the same here. Myles Garrett is dealing with a foot injury, hasn't practiced all week, but he's going to play through it. He had a strip sack last week. Might not be super effective, Myles Garrett, but like half the battle with Myles Garrett is just having him out there on the field, because there's nobody who's gonna be like, yeah, we're just gonna see if he can beat us. Nobody's giving you that game plan against Myles Garrett, right? They're gonna move things over, which is going to free other guys up there as long as Myles is out there and looking capable. So defensively, yeah, I think this could be a game where you could get carried defensively, and you could sneak to a win against a struggling New York Giants team. But also, I think this is a game where you're going to want to be able to score offensively just for comfort's sake. But also, New York is capable of sneaking up on you and getting you, right? Like they're still an NFL team. So that's really what I'm looking forward to in this game is, can we get steps from this offense? Not just Deshaun Watson, but the whole offense total, right? Is Amari Cooper going to play better? I know he's had a bad start to the season, but is that going to get better this week, right? Are you going to get more explosive plays out of other guys other than Jerry Jeudy, which has been a surprise that Jerry Judy's been so good so early for the Browns, but other guys do have to step up, right? Where's Elijah Moore? Where is Cedric Tillman? All these other pieces that the Browns want. David Njoku on IR. I think the run game's going to be fine here, but really just want to see that passing game be able to get the points on the board. It was a nice step in the right direction that they were above water, right? They had a expected points of 0 this game last week. So they got all the points that Jacksonville left on the floor there. But you need to be able to pick up some extra opportunities and create some opportunities for yourself. And I think that's where the Browns offense floundered last week, where they didn't close that game versus Jacksonville. So that's where I'm looking for the Browns. You want to see them build back that confidence that you could think this team could challenge for a Super Bowl, regardless of who is at quarterback. So that's really going to be an important thing here for this team. Is just, you got to show that progress offensively.
This is the week that the Bengals fan tells me this is the week that it starts. First 2 weeks, we're just vibing. We're just chilling. This is the week that starts. Ace, what do you expect against the Mandos team?
Yeah, I expect the Bengals to bounce back in this one. They look like the team that we thought that they were last week against the Chiefs. I think going into this one, the thing that really stands out for me is the DVOA of Washington. They are the worst defense in the NFL right now, 32nd out of all 32 teams. Bengals on defense, DVOA, even though the offense, at least week 1, looked like it struggled, are 11th in the league thus far. So that's going to be something to take into account, especially when you have a rookie quarterback like Jaden Daniels. Now, I do think Jaden Daniels does have some room to do some things, right? He's got a 75% completion percentage right now. He's not really turning the ball over, whereas guys like Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, not really having great seasons. I think he's actually the best of the bunch thus far. You talk about the turnover differential. That's where Washington also has the advantage. Now, obviously, these splits are 2 games, one game here, 1 game there. So obviously the Bengals didn't do good at home the last time that they played. Pass defense was good though. They were 4th in the league. Washington is 25th. Washington also lost Emmanuel Forbes as well, who has struggled but is one of their best corners. The other thing is that Cincinnati is also getting T. Higgins back, which is going to be big for the offense. So you're talking about a team that runs mostly cover 3, doesn't really run too much cover 2, which is the defense that most people usually run against the Bengals. And that to me spells a recipe for the Bengals offense, passing offense, really going off in this one. I think you get Jamar Chase the ball. I think you get T. Higgins the ball. You're not going to be able to see that double bracket coverage on Chase like you're typically used to seeing. However, Washington's offense is what I'm really focused on, and I want to see what this Bengals defense is able to do against them because their offensive line sack percentage isn't that bad. They're 15th in the league, so they're not seeing too much pressure on the quarterback. And then their explosive play percentage is 13%. Bengals right now are at 6, so the Bengals have not been an explosive offense. When you look at their explosive plays, it's only three plays that they've had thus far, and all of them are passing plays. They have not had any explosive runs whatsoever. So we'll have to see if they get the run established, but I don't think it'll be this game. Washington's run defense is actually the strength of their team. The pass defense, as I stated before, is the weakness. And I think when you look at it from an efficiency standpoint, even though the Bengals offense hasn't been the best, they are 8th in offensive efficiency. They're 18th in defensive efficiency. Washington, again, is last in defensive efficiency. Offensive efficiency, they're 25th. We talked about the field goal fest that they just had last week. So I think it'll be a close game, though. I don't think that this is one where the Bengals just blow this team out of the water. I think whenever you have a good quarterback, which I think Jaden Daniels is, I think he has a bright future. I think he can also do some things to hurt the Bengals on the ground. However, I think just the way that the defense is playing right now, I think they'll be fine. Von Bell does look like he may be a possible game time decision. The reason that I'm not worried about that is that the Bengals have a reserve in Jordan Battle, which I don't put too much stock in PFF numbers. He was one of the top PFF safeties last year. But to me, I just go off of the eye test. What he was able to do on the field, I feel more than comfortable with him going in there. But from a standpoint overall, the Washington Commanders, I believe when you look at their Monday Night Football history, it's not good. The Commanders on Monday Night Football have a 7-23 all-time record. So I like the Bengals in this one, and I'm going to take them at home. I think it's going to be a tough environment for Jaden Daniels to play in, but I think ultimately the Commanders' defense, their pass defense specifically, is what does them in this one.
Yeah,
Jared.
if you look at this from a defensive standpoint, the Commanders are dead last in the NFL in defensive EPA per play. The Bengals are actually 14th. So, I mean, that hasn't been any sort of issue for them thus far. And I think that, even though bringing in Dan Quinn to replace, Jack Del Rio on the defensive side, but also a head coach, so far it hasn't really done a whole lot. And that defense is still struggling. So I fully expect Joe Burrow and co to take advantage of that.
So with that said, let's move on to the Steelers game, Jared. Let's get your insight on the Steelers game. This one is against the LA Chargers, who are surprisingly 2-0 as it stands right now. First game, home game for Pittsburgh.
Correct.
Like I was wondering when I put my splits out, I'm like, why is my page erroring out? And it's like, oh, Pittsburgh has not played a home game, so that's even more impressive with them being at 2-0.
Yeah, so a battle of unbeatens. I don't think a lot of people expected Chargers Steelers to be a battle to see, all right, who's going to start 3-0 this year. In terms of the Steelers, man, like it's not when you look at just a box score, I think a lot of people will be like, all right, kind of same stuff with the offense. But when you look at the Steelers offense this year through 2 games compared to last year, I should say through a game and a half, because the second half last week wasn't great. But I would say the first 6 quarters of Steelers football this year, they have been different in the fact that, they're running a hell of a ton more play action. They were near the bottom of the league in play action attempts last year. Justin Fields is amongst the leaders in completions off play action so far this year. And they're establishing long drives. So you go back and look from Atlanta to the first half against Denver, I mean, there was multiple 12-play drives, 11-play drives, a couple 10-play drives. Like, their problem has been finishing because they had 6 field goals against Atlanta and they scored on their second drive against Denver. And if not for a lot of penalties against Denver, they probably have at least one more touchdown that got negated, and then potentially another one after a 51-yard pass from Fields to Pickens got negated because of a Broderick Jones holding penalty. Troy Fautanu got an injury tweak today. He might not play Sunday, so Broderick Jones might be starting at right tackle. Defensively, though, I mean, these are two of the best defenses in the league right now. In terms of EPA, the Chargers are first in defensive EPA. The Steelers are third. So it's going to be, if you're one of these people who fetishizes running the football and defense and like shakes your fist at the clouds because, you know, you miss how the NFL used to be, this is your game. This is going to be a run fest. And I think I saw it was Adam Rank said that, it was probably sarcastically. He was like, yeah, 13-5 is going to be the final score of this game. Oddly enough, the Chargers and Steelers played in the first 11-10 game ever back in 2008. So maybe we'll see something like that again. But yeah, in terms of the Steelers defense, man, like I wrote about it after the Denver game. I think this is the best defense that they've had since 2010. Like even better than, you know, the 2018, 2019, 2020 units. Like overall, they just don't really have a lot of holes on that side of the ball. They've allowed 1 touchdown through 2 games. And if not for a bad offsides call on TJ Watt against Atlanta, they probably haven't allowed a score yet through 2 games. So they've been awesome. And in terms of the Chargers, Justin Herbert dealing with a right ankle sprain, a high right ankle sprain. That's not going to be great for the plant foot. So that kind of plays into the Steelers' hand a little bit, especially if they can consistently stop the run and they make Herbert throw. As fun as Quentin Johnston's been through 2 games, I have no worries about Joey Porter Jr. locking him down and forcing Herbert to throw to guys, you know, throw to Vlad McConkey, throw to who the hell else plays receiver for the Chargers? Like, that's a genuine question. I do not know. They don't have
Johnston.
Yeah, but I think that Joey's going to take away Quentin Johnston, so it's going to be yeah. You're really relying on Ladd and, you know, insert name of Chargers receiver here to really beat you. I will say J.K. Dobbins, though, Pittsburgh very familiar with J.K. Dobbins from his years in Baltimore. He's had a really good first couple weeks, and the Greg Roman offense has looked good for the first couple weeks, but we know how that honeymoon phase is usually very quick with the Greg Roman offense. So it's going to be a defensive battle. I think the over-under is 34.5 for this game. I'm comfortably taking the under on that even. Both of these teams are going to look to manage the clock, own time of possession, own the field position game, and it's going to be a low-scoring game. What I think the Steelers need to do is continue opening the playbook. We saw them do that a little bit against Denver with the pass downfield where Fields made an off-platform throw, torqued his body, threw it downfield 51 yards, but again, it was negated by one of 3 Broderick Jones penalties on that drive. So overall, man, I feel good about the offense, even if the box score might not say that you should. Again, if not for penalties, they probably have at least 2 more scores against Denver, and that game looks a lot more convincing than it does on the surface. So I feel good about the Steelers. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're any sort of like Super Bowl contender just because I need to see more from the quarterback play consistently. I need to see it continue to get better before I can say anything like that. And they still need another receiver to complement Pickens because you had, I think, Van Jefferson through 3 games has 3 catches for 13 yards. Calvin Austin's got 2 catches. Outside of that, the receiver position hasn't really given them a lot. So it's a lot of George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, Darnell Washington had a touchdown catch last week. They need to get more from that position. I won't be surprised if one of these teams with a good receiver, like if Washington just nosedives, why not trade Terry McLaurin? What the hell are you doing with him? Like you're not 80% of his targets have been screen passes. Apparently, I saw that stat today. This Cliff Kingsbury offense is bad. It's not good. So I think the Steelers right now, you know, I'm going to be cautiously optimistic. They haven't started 3-0 outside of the 2020 year. I think the last time they started 3-0 was like 2010. It's been a long time since we've seen it. But overall, I'm optimistic about the offense and Arthur Smith. Very optimistic about the defense. Like I said, this is the best defense they've had in a long time. So it's going to be a low-scoring game. I want to say the Steelers will win, but I don't know if I'm necessarily confident in that. I won't be surprised if the Chargers win. So I'm very much up in the air right now. But I feel good about where they are. Again, did not expect them to be 2-0. So this is gravy at this point. After this week, they play Indianapolis, who they lost to last year. So, got to get if you can get 3-0, especially with the back half of the season, playing all the AFC North games, playing Kansas City on Christmas. Losing one of those down the stretch won't hurt as much because you had a hot start. So, feel good about where they are right now. Feel good about Sunday. And I won't be surprised either way with the result. If the Steelers start 3-0 or if they drop it to the Chargers, it's going to be a low-scoring close game.
Cowboys Ravens. I'm not gonna lie, I'm nervous. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not here to cap anything. I am nervous. This is a game. It's in Dallas. The question that I have with this team right now is, are they feeling the pressure? They're not talking like they're feeling the pressure in Baltimore, player-wise. The fan base here, I'm feeling the pressure. But the players are not. The players are saying, yeah, we have to play better. We start 0-2, but we have to do more. We're beating ourselves, penalty, which everything they're saying is true. But what are you going to do about it, right? Our O-line, so I'm going to go, I go to the advanced metrics. I go to all these metrics and all these pretty charts that people put and all the grade system. And our O-line doesn't look bad in none of these charts or stats. But I'm watching these games. I don't know how these. It has to be the rest of the league O-line is worse. It has to be. How is my O-line ranked like middle of the pack? Now, I will say that my left side of the O-line is not bad. It's actually playing strong. It's the right side. You're as strong as your weakest link. And with the O-line, we have played good rushers, and they have been abusing that right side. Not only abusing that right side, Fahalele, my guy. Especially him. Okay, we have to deal with Michael Parsons this week. I wish. I want to see Rosengarten.
Pressure percentage of the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah. They don't. The Dallas defense right now has been very underwhelming. Right. On paper, they look way better than when they're putting on the field. The Cowboys are, and for a matter of fact, the Ravens too. On paper, the Ravens look way better than what they have produced right now on the field. That being said, I am worried. I am worried about the pass rush. Now, the question here is, are the Ravens going to have them running option routes just to stop the pass rusher, right? So when Lamar runs the option route, the RPO, all these defenses just freeze. Talking about the D-line, right? And that gives you just enough time. Zay Flowers has been really, really good this year, running open. Bateman, even though he crapped the bed last game at the end, he also has been playing for me. If you go back to the tape, he's getting open, right? And the tight end. So the Baltimore passing game offensively looks better than what people think. The running game on the other side, even though the numbers will tell you we just wake up with 100 yards rushing, I don't feel like those 100 yards are easy 100 yards. Like, and I'll argue in the past, like last week, the 100 yards felt like a heavy lift. Look, the problem is I have two teams here that Baltimore, I believe in because it's my team, because I think what they can do, right? I think they can exploit the Cowboys offensively. I think they can put Michael Parsons to freeze just enough because they can make Parsons go to take Henry and then Lamar takes it out on the out route just one time is enough for then Parsons just to freeze for the rest of the game in RPO, trying to figure out what's happening. And on the corners and the linebacking core of the Cowboys, I personally don't think that they're that big of a threat. I think the receivers can get open, the receivers can gain yardage, right? And then the running back side, the question here is, can you get Henry going, right? It looked against the Raiders that we were about to, and he kept mauling. And in the beginning of the game, he sucked. And then in the third quarter, he started getting yardage. And one of the reasons you will hear the Ravens fans being so frustrated was because after that touchdown, after the Henry started, I think he was averaging like 5 yards a clip after that very, not on average, but if you take that early part of the game, first quarter or first and a half quarters, then he started running well. And after the touchdown, when you're up by 10, where's Henry? One attempt? Why are we just getting one attempt? So those are the things that it makes you look at your coaching sideways, especially a guy like Todd Monken, right? A guy that in the playoffs also didn't run and blah, blah, blah. So, and here against the Cowboys, I do want to see more runs, right? I said that last week. We got a guy, Alvin Kamara, that ate them alive. We have the power. We have between Henry and Lamar. We should be running the ball. We should be killing them on that. We should be killing them on time of possession. On the other side, defense. Are you going to show up or not? Especially in the secondary, they're giving up a lot of yards. CeeDee Lamb hurt right now. I think he's going to play, but he has a lower back issue, right? The report says he's playing. Okay, but if you take CD out, CD Lamb out, who do you have? Right, like their offense starts looking very sus. Running back, the running back core. What is it? This is a game that you basically say you're not gonna run with your front four, and then your corners have to just make sure there's no big plays. Other thing is, surprisingly, or for me at least, we have been getting pressure with 4 and 5. That's not something Baltimore usually does. This year, 4 or 5, pressure has been applied against Kansas City and against the Raiders. Now, the Raiders O-line, Kansas City's O-line better. But the Cowboys right now, O-line's not great either. And I think this is a game that if you pressure Dak Prescott and you get to him, even if you don't sack him, but if you get to him and make him uncomfortable, he will throw it out there for the pick, and the defense has to be ready for the pick. I need my safeties to be ready for those picks. I think Baltimore, if pressure is applied and the running attack goes back to what it needs to be, I think Baltimore can control the time of possession, and I think they can come out with a W.
Yeah, Dallas was, before last week, 16-0 in their last 16 home games. So that was the first time they lost at home since the Week 1 opener against Tampa Bay in 2022. So they had been very good at home over the past couple seasons. Overall, defensively for Dallas, obviously Deron Bland not playing. Kalen Carson, rookie out of Wake Forest, has been pretty solid. I think the biggest thing for Dallas last week was just the fact that New Orleans was consistently able to get yards out of Alvin Kamara, and then they, again, another really good play action team, for the second straight week, beat them over the top with Rashid Shaheed. So the Saints, I think, overall right now are a better offense than Baltimore, which is, a weird thing I didn't expect to say coming into the season, but here we are. And for the Ravens, like, what scares you about the Ravens offense? You got a solid receiver in Zay Flowers. Rashad Bateman's not keeping defensive coordinators up at night, respectfully speaking to Rashad Bateman.
No, I agree.
Like, no, I promise you, Mike Zimmer. Mike Zimmer,
so kind to even consider that it could be something.
I promise you, Mike Zimmer's not staring at his ceiling at 3 a.m. thinking, how in God's name am I going to stop Rashad Bateman?
50 at that 400 he going to hit this season.
So, like, and I like Isaiah Likely. It looks like he's slowly progressing into becoming their top tight end. But running back wise, I don't have anything that scares you. I think if you're Dallas, you're just kind of stacking the box and saying, all right, Lamar, beat us with your arm. Can you do it? I don't think you can. I think that Kansas City's kind of been the blueprint for doing that recently, is stacking the box. Now, they struggled with the fact that he was able to run on them in week 1 until they finally were like, all right, Leo Chenal, watch what he does and make sure that he can't do that anymore. So if they can have somebody that can consistently spy Lamar Jackson, which I think going with, if I'm not mistaken, Dallas kind of went for the trait of speed in their linebackers a little bit more than necessarily size. So I think that if they were
Kendricks, don't they?
They do have Kendricks. Yeah, they brought back Eric Kendricks, who they drafted a kid from LSU a couple years ago whose name is escaping me. That is kind of like a safety build almost. I cannot remember his name at the top of my head.
There's so many
but somebody needs to be able to. There are. But if they can have somebody who can consistently keep Lamar at reps in the run game and just make them win with his arm, I think that they have a beautiful chance of rebounding, starting 2-1. And then if you're Baltimore, you're 0-3. Then you play Buffalo. Oh, okay. And then you play Cincinnati after that. That's not great, mate. So this is as much of a must win as a week 3 game can get for the Ravens. Dallas, I think that if you're the Ravens, you can kind of play it similar to how Dallas could, because who's going to scare you running the ball with the Cowboys? Like prehistoric Ezekiel Elliott, Deuce Vaughn. They got one more back there who, again, name is escaping me, and that's probably not a coincidence because he hasn't really had much of an impact in 2 weeks. So maybe a big Jace Ferguson game. We saw Brock Bowers have a big game against the Ravens defense, so maybe they target him a little bit more. if CeeDee Lamb is taken away. But receiver wise,
You mean you're not scared of Rico Dowdle?
Rico Dowdle, that's who it is. Yes, yes.
Rico.
Goodness gracious. No, I'm not afraid of Rico Dowdle.
Okay.
Maybe it's because of just the hate in my heart taking over.
I got you.
But I won't be surprised if Baltimore wins. I mean, they're a well-coached team, and Lamar's obviously a very good player. So, I don't know, man. I'm going to lean Dallas just because it's in Jerry World. They've been very good in Dallas over the past 2 seasons, against 16-1 in their last 17 home games. And I think that for them being humiliated at home, I think it's a 5-alarm fire for them if they lose too. Like whoever loses this game, that the sirens are going off in their facility.
Yeah, Jared just convinced me with that 26-1 stat. I'm on the Cowboys now.
They've been disgusting at home for whatever reason over the past 2 years. No idea why.